This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello, welcome to this edition of Red Side of the Trent. This week we are discussing the preview for West Ham, along with a lot of other topics such as the Taiwo injury, player of the season, young player of the season, manager of the season as well. And to discuss all of that is Reese Lane and Christian Brown. Reese, how are you first of all?
I'm okay. Yourself, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. It's getting to that point of the season now at the end where it's all dwindling down and hopes and sorrows are either there or not there, to be honest, especially with Christian. Christian, are you all right?
Yeah, all good. I think, like Jess said in that pod you did on the day, sort of like football fatigue sort of kicking in now, just ready for it to end. So I think I've accepted our fate now, so whatever happens, happens. So we'll move on.
You're not allowed to celebrate if we get into the Champions League, so
I'm going to pitch we get in the Champions League. That always be the aim.
I love your seasons. I love your season ticket. I'll be a tout. Reece, we're going to start off first of all with the news of Taiwo Awoniyi's injury. It turned out that he'd ruptured an intestine, and I'm not surprised with the way he collided the post. To be honest, with what damage he'd done. I mean, didn't think it was going to be inducing coma levels of injury, maybe like a few broken ribs or whatever. But what I mean, we wish him well, obviously, a speedy recovery. But I mean, what have you made of since then and the statement and everything surrounding that?
Yeah, well, the main thing is, his recovery going well. So, best wishes to Taiwo and his family because, like you say, he was in an induced coma, according to reports. Obviously, he's had to have surgery. You can't blame the medical team for the fact because they can't diagnose an injury in that short space of time, can't they? I mean, you're literally under the pressure and the timescales they are, but he should have come off regardless because he was literally no-how. And sometimes athletes need saving from themselves. You see that in boxing, that kind of fighting spirit and that adrenaline takes over when really someone should be saying that's enough. So, the sub should have been made, but it wasn't. Still, in my opinion, the flag should have been put up. But I'm not also going to blame the assistant referee because, unfortunately, the rules, we've got this grey area, haven't we? The rules say the flag shouldn't be raised, but, there was an incident, I think it was Edison who got an injury, and Howard Webb said, well, if it's a clear offside, then the flag should be raised. So these are, this is the PGMOL's idea of the laws in football, which is grey areas all over the place. So I don't think I'm not going to start blaming anybody because I don't think it needs that. But yeah, it's just obviously Taiwo getting a speedy recovery is the main thing. And I do feel for him because whatever fans might feel of him as a player, he's just had so much bad luck, really, hasn't he? The poor bloke. But yeah, that was for that. The statement. Well, the statement really is Forest trying to control the narrative of why Marinakis come onto the pitch. Unfortunately, with the British media, that is near on impossible. Once they have got a narrative, they run with that narrative. They run with the stereotypes. You've seen it with Forest. 30 players in the first season. That means Forest are signing players all over the place. And that narrative sticks. Look how many random agent links we still get, even though his recruitment has actually changed quite a bit. So that was my opinion on it. Marinakis has come on the pitch, in my opinion, because he's frustrated. And I get it. The bloke's just seeing likely now millions of pounds, what is in our hands, go up in smoke. And he's a businessman. And when, this is coming from someone who's built businesses, and I've not done on Marinakis' level, when you do get, obviously, bumps along the road, yeah, it does annoy you. So I think it was out of frustration, obviously, because of not beating a side who'd been relegated, and the whole episode with Tyra being injured. Obviously, unfortunately, as Forrest said, you've now got people in the media like your Gary Neville, who, you know, stands on his soapbox and knows his opinion carries a lot of weight because one of the most popular, if not the most popular pundit in the country in terms of probably viewership. And, you know, he's seen a rag to bull ante and just put an emotional response really to that, because what he put, you know, was childish in my opinion. But that's that. So yeah, I mean, for me now, mate, I've moved on, you know, and you know, it's something probably going to be held against Marinakis, and I think it's clear to say there's no love lost between Neville and Marinakis and Forrest, but you know, for me, we just got to move on now, haven't we? And it'll be something that's held against us, like the tweet was, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the way it goes, isn't it, in football and in the media.
I mean, we've done well all this season to get to game week 37 almost without any controversy. Last season was just an absolute. I'm not going to say it, but it was a bit of a circus at times with everything that was going off. So never boring at Forest.
I mean, he shouldn't have gone on the pitch, in my opinion, and because it leads to all this narrative. But at the end of the day, you know, God, no one's like. I know obviously Tyro's the injury, but afterwards, no one's hurt themselves or anything, has they? It's happened, and that's the end of it. But I think Gary's always had a bit of an axe to grind with Forrest, hasn't he? There has been a few comments made, but oh well.
I maybe we should like contact an Olympiacos fan and find out what they think about when he goes on the pitch there. They probably love it. They probably don't even care.
Well, I think it was it the Palco who went on the pitch with a gun one time? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that level, was it? But you know, I've moved on personally. You know, I get what the club are trying to control the narrative, but it's very, very difficult when the media, like I said, when the British media have got something, they seem to run with it, don't they? They don't really care about any additional points around it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, just to round off that little bit, and unless Kusha, do you have anything to say about it as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as generous as Reece regarding the officials. I think it's disgrace, really. Elanga's 5-6 yards offside, and she's right in line with it. That you won't see a more clear, obvious offsides. Probably for
I do agree with that, but it's from the super areas.
It has to go up.
It does. I agree.
I think had it been centimeters or level, I think no one bats an eye. They do. We're going, you know what? Fair enough. They've applied the law. You have a completely different conversation about that afterwards. The fact that he was so clearly offside and the flag still didn't go up, that's a failure of duty. I'm sorry.
Do you know if the PGMO would turn around and say, right, look, we're going to trust you to put the flag up, and if you get 1 in 100 wrong, we'll accept it. I guarantee you should have put that flag up. And it's just because of these grey areas around it. And I get it. You know, they probably think, they're probably that frightened to death of it being wrong. Whereas you've got, you know, human error is going to happen in football. And
to that level?
Like with the Spurs and the Liverpool goal. Do you know if the referee would have pulled that back and done the right thing, I guarantee Howard Webb would have supported it.
But, no, it's fair enough. I think that's just incomprehensible for me, really. I mean, there's clear daylight between Langer and a player like covering the defender. I mean, you probably felt the same like a Bridgeford. From our angle, actually looked like Taiwo scored. Bless him. No one celebrated near me. Everyone sort of just went, no. We all knew the flag was going up to get pulled back. It's just completely pointless. But
I'm still baffled how we didn't score, to be honest.
Yeah, to be fair. But no, I mean, the main thing is he's okay. I mean, that's incredible. I think I read Daniel Taylor's article on your flag this morning, and he got it spot on. Like when you see when your players get injured, you don't expect them to be put into in an induced coma. That's seriously like dangerous. You know, that's something more akin to a car crash accident than it is to being on a football pitch. So, you know, delighted Taiwo's okay. Apparently, the article said that he's up, he's around, he's got his family around him, sort of thing, for support. So, you know, he's out of that sort of mire, if you like. That's the most important thing, really. The Marinakis thing, I mean, like I said to you at the time, Adam, I don't have any real issue with him going on the pitch. That's just him. But he also would have known this would be a byproduct of that. Neville clearly, like Reece has said, he's clearly got a chip on his shoulder for Forest to some degree. Whether it's because he sees Forest as a team that he beat 8-1 and can't stand the fact that they're now 10 places higher than them in the league or whatever else, and I don't know. But whether it's because of the Mafia comment last season that he was sued for and Sky has to issue a grovelling apology about, I don't know. There's clearly some needle there, and yeah. To be honest, it wouldn't have mattered what had happened. Give him an inch, he'll take a mile. Unfortunately, while I don't disagree with what Marinakis did, he probably has to be slightly aware that was a possibility. But it's happened now. It is what it is. The only thing I will say about the statement is that if you are putting out this statement saying that you've ran on the pitch your best intentions of your player, maybe don't write 6 paragraphs explaining how everyone else was at fault before mentioning, oh, Tyro's all right, actually. And we got all our thoughts of him there. I mean, I just felt that even in terms of control and narrative, it was pretty poorly done from Forest. They didn't need to put out a statement. What Marinakis put out alone was more than enough. And they should have just left it at that. But, it's done now. So another chapter in this football club's roller coaster continues.
My last few thoughts on a couple of those things. One, I'm glad Tyro's good. 2, I reckon Gary Neville's got a chip on his shoulder because Greg Mitchell's ruffled him up on the overlap. I hope that gets back to Greg. And I think he'll support that. I think as well, what I also absolutely rate is Marinakis being a billionaire and still only wearing a white shirt and some black trousers. Like, it just keeps it nice and simple. I quite like that. It's a bit like Homer Simpson-esque. I know we love a Simpsons reference on this podcast. So, yeah, just same wardrobe. He must have about 20 white shirts that he has. And he just, yeah.
A lot of them do, though, don't they? Like, I mean, you see like Jim Ratcliffe and that. A lot of them do. Obviously, you guys know I'm massively into, all the stories about Escobar. He was the exact same. He just wore like a pair of jeans, white trainers, and a t-shirt. Yeah, they've got all the more money than God. So each to their own, isn't it?
Absolutely ridiculous. The next topic we'll move on is the recent, like literally not even that long ago, Nico Dominguez back in the Argentina squad. Christian, thoroughly deserved. In our opinion, we love him on this pod, and I'm hoping a lot more of the fan base start seeing what he brings to our football team.
I mean, I hoped for the lottery, but I think that's probably more likely than an element of our fan base giving Dominguez any credit. Unfortunately, no, it's incredibly deserved. So richly deserved. He's been a phenomenon this season. You could probably put him in player of the season conversations, and being perfectly honest. Like, I think obviously we'll come on to that in due course, and that'll be its own separate debate. But he's just been so good, and I think we felt a bit aggrieved from earlier on in the season when he sort of came in and was doing really well. I know Nathan said that he was fairly hard done by around November time, not to be in those sorts of internationals, and then by the March ones came round, it was sort of like a bit more justifiable now. These are the world champions we're talking about, the world champion midfield that we've got a player in. He's that good to get in. But no, of course, you'll still get some dissenters say that he's light in the tackle, or he's not physical enough, or he's this or he's that. That's just nonsense. He's a fantastic footballer. So glad to have him in a red and white shirt, and yeah, like he just thoroughly, richly deserves. I mean, they all deserve to be in their national teams, really. I think on how they've played this season, and he's no different. Even if he is playing for the current World Cup holders, yeah, he's just absolute revelation this season, Dominguez.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Reece?
No, aside from I hope he's crying when we take the World Cup off him next year, but that's another story. Yeah, I'm just looking at their squad now. Obviously, there's some quality midfielders in there. You're looking at Alexis McAllister, Rodrigo De Paul, very good Atletico Madrid. Enzo Fernandez, who what was it, 120 million Chelsea spent on him.
Yeah,
you've also got that up and coming one, someone who I like in Thiago Almada in there. So, yeah, it's great to see our name on there. Like Christian said, they're the world champions, so it's another string to Forest's bow. I think Dominguez has been overall very good this season. I think my most favourite thing about him was at the start of the season, very similar to Nico Williams. He was out of favour, not getting in the team. And apparently, he knocked on Nuno's door, asked why I'm not playing, and rather than all the charlatans we've had over the years at the club who are happy to sit on the backside on X amount a week. He actually wanted to play for us. And I think ever since he got into the team, which I believe was it Palace at home, I think he maybe got in. I think he's been, aside from the odd 1 or 2 games, which I think most players have had, well, all players have had this season, which happens, I think he's been pretty good for us. So, yeah, it's nice to see his name on that list, even though obviously being an Englishman, my love for Argentina isn't massive, apart from the beer and the chimichurri.
I mean, there's a lot to be said about Nico Dominguez, because I'll probably look at this at the end of the season, actually, see how many times he's actually played out of position and not in central midfield for us, because he
always does his job for the team, doesn't he?
He's always the one that gets shafted a little bit. I mean, next season, I hope we address that and he can play then more centrally. I think we'll get so much more out of him. But no, fantastic. I'm really pleased for him. But we will.
It's a point I made. Sorry, Adam. It's a point I made on Twitter that if Gibbs White, let's say, was to go in the summer, would we maybe go and kind of forget at 10 next season, go to a more 4-3-3 formation? Because obviously,
it's definitely a debate to be had, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because you spent a lot of money on an out-and-out number 6. Dominguez is energetic to play alongside him, and then you've got kind of Elliot Anderson, who's that 8/ more towards an 8/10 who could probably progress more. It's a thought, isn't it? But we'll have to see. Hopefully, Morgan's still here, so that debate just goes by the wayside.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we will talk about Morgan Gibbs-White and Chris Wood, as they have been nominated for the Player of the Season award. This is an interesting one because, first of all, I'd like to know off both of you if you think any of them deserve it. Mainly more towards Morgan Gibbs-White, because I feel like that's been a debate, especially online. Or if you think anyone else has been hard done by. Sells probably being maybe the big one, or Milenkovic because of the impact he's had on us. So yeah, there's a few things to digest there, but we'll start with yourself, Reese.
I wouldn't put Morgan in for a Premier League Player of the Season, and that's not doing down his contribution this season. I just think there's probably other players. I'm going to speak purely on a Forest basis, probably ahead of him. But it's a tough one, isn't it? Usually when you go Player of the Season as well, the attackers usually make up the most of the numbers. I imagine most of them are there on attackers. I'm thinking Salah, and Mbeumo, Isak, Wood. Who else is on there? Very rarely you're not going to get like 8 defenders and goalkeepers on there, are you? It's going to be predominantly attackers and midfielders. So probably I guess the stereotype is he's kind of our main talisman, which there's an element of truth to that. But I think if you took a deeper dive in for people who are on the inside, like us as fans, personally, I'd probably have Sells ahead of him. I'd probably have Milenkovic. Well, I would definitely have Milenkovic ahead of him. And you could make a case for a few others as well. But at the end of the day, for Forest to have 2 nominations for Premier League Player of the Season, it's just, well, if you'd have said that at the end of last season, you'd have probably had a laugh, wouldn't you? So, yeah, that is great to see. And I'm not going to do Morgan down on it because, like I said, it's just great to see that we've got nominations in all these categories because it shows how well we've done this season.
I'd personally like to see the Premier League move to a bit more of a different format where they might do I know they do like Golden Glove and everything, but why don't you just do like a goalkeeper of the year, defender of the year, midfielder, attacker? Because it does favour the attackers, obviously. Mo Salah's going to win it because Liverpool have won the league and he's done nearly 20 goals, 20 assists, which is actually ridiculous in a sense. But when you actually watch him, I don't think for me personally, he's a good goal scorer and everything, but he's not that entertaining personally. But that's for another
He's
day.
a numbers player, isn't he? He's not someone who like obviously my favourite player is Thierry Henry. I'd pay to watch him and because he gets you on edge. You see it with it, obviously his dynamism and his all-round thing. And that I've watched Salah 5 or 6 times since we've come to the Premier League live, and not really done much for me. I know his numbers are exceptional. You can't take them away from him, but I think the only goal he scored past us was where Toffolo and Turner just ran into one another, which I think I would have rolled in. So,
I think
I
he scored
get
in the
that, but you
3-2
can't
as
take
well,
it away from him. Unfortunately, in this day and age, mate, numbers take such paramount over anything, and he's produced the numbers. So, yeah, I agree, a winner.
Yeah, Christian, thoughts as well. Do you think, as I'd like a word on you? Do you think Wood does Wood deserve to be in it as well, or would you take both of them out, or are you happy? What's your verdict?
So I'm probably on the other side of the scale, if you like, in regards to Gibbs White. But this is the beauty of how our season's been, because we could all, and obviously include Lee in this when he comes back, or even you could ask all our guests that we've had on as well, recurring for the season. You could ask them who your favourite 3 players of the season are. There's a good chance all of us have someone different in that top 3, because there's been so many standout players this season. I think I'm a huge Gibbs White fan, of course, but I mean, I suppose if we all say like how good England are and how good this England team is, for example, obviously he got his England debut this year. He broke into that team, that setup to get his 2 England caps, for example. That's a huge achievement in its own right. Look at what's ahead of him. So obviously he has to be playing at a stupidly high level to get into that team to begin with. Then I saw Opta Analyst did a little sort of article assessing all 8 players, which obviously taps into what Reece was saying about how numbers sort of dictate things. And yeah, there is a lot of bias towards attackers, because that's who we want to see, really, don't we? We want to see someone skin a fullback or pick an Ivan Needle pass or rattle one in. That's what we go and watch, isn't it? I mean, I suppose we could go for like tactical chess battles or to watch defenders, for example, but got games about goals, I guess, at the end of it. And they said that, so obviously no Forest players created as many chances as Gibbs White has, both overall and from open play. And his importance in the Forest attack is further highlighted by him having the most open play attacking sequence involvements this season. So he's had 141 different sequences that have led to a shot for his side. Now, I think it's very fair that you could say Sells probably should be in, probably ahead of him, and maybe even Aina as well, because I think he's probably been the best right back in the league this season, personally. But equally, those are pretty impressive numbers, and he has played very well this season. There's a reason why he's been linked with a £100 million move to Manchester City, for example, who are managed by the best manager of all time and are probably going to win everything in the world next season when they spend £500 million in the summer. So, he has had a standout season, but the fact that we're saying that there's other players who could potentially be ahead of him says just how good we've been as a club. And that's hugely exciting and something that, now I'm a bit calmer after the weekend. It's something you can take a lot of stock from. So, yeah, I'm not against Gibbs White being in it personally. I think that, yeah, he could have gone to Sales, he could have gone to Wayne, he could have gone to Milenkovic, he could have gone to Williams. It could have been, there's a lot of players you could have picked out. But, yeah, equally, he is very deserving personally. As for Woods, again, 20 goals in the league season. He's one behind Erling Haaland. Imagine saying at the start of last season, we've got a striker who had 1 goal less than Erling Haaland. You'd assume he had like a bloody ACL at the start of the summer or something. And that Forest were struggling with, 5 goals all season from their leading marksman, and Haaland had 6 and just played 2 games. So, again, that's, and at his age as well, we're not talking some spring check-in. We're talking, a 33-year-old striker who was seen as this, lower league target man for a team that might go down, and you might get you 10 goals a season if you're lucky, sort of thing. So for him to have the season he's had, yeah, I'm all on board with Woody getting nominated. Why not? Get him ahead of Isak in the team of the year. Why not? See how we go from there.
Well, on is it who scored? I think he's got the best conversion rate with strikers that have took over 50 shots, and he's the best in the world. I think actually,
it's like 51% or something stupid, isn't it? I don't know.
I think it's less than that. I think it's about 30 as in conversion rate. I'm not sure, but he definitely ranked number 1 at least in Europe anyway, which is a magnificent achievement. My take on the Gibbs White thing is I think you kind of all touched on it. Like, we've had players in our team that we think have done better. When you read out them numbers, Christian definitely does support the nomination there in terms of how influential he is. I think we've just seen it because of, we've always thought we could attack teams anyway. It's just about defending, which is, I think, has probably been why we're all thinking Milenkovic, Sells, Murillo, Aina, Nico Williams to an extent have all had also very, very good seasons, and they have, and we'll probably be able to talk about every single player in the in the 13 or 14 that have been mainly used this season. So yeah, that they've all done really, really well to an extent. But we will move on to the Young Player of the Season award that's been nominated for Anthony Elanga. And we thought we had a little question in our WhatsApp group, Christian, which was, would Anderson maybe get it over Anthony Elanga? And considering at the start of the season you were really against the signing of Elliot Anderson, I'm very intrigued to see what you say about this. Although I do think Elanga is a worthy nominee personally. I think he's had a terrific season again.
I mean, you could, like I said, though, you could probably argue Murillo could be ahead of both of them. Being honest, I mean, he's probably just as unlucky not to be in team of the season contenders as anyone else is. Again, I think it's not even flipping a coin, really, is it? It's sort of just like spinning the ball and seeing where it lands. I think, again, there's so many contenders for it. Again, you can throw Williams into that conversation as well. I think he's just about eligible for Young Player of the Season too. So, yeah, obviously Anderson's had an amazing season. I think I saw he's won the most duels in the league this season. I think it is, of ground duels. I think the only person was behind him was Bruno Guimaraes. I think I saw.
And Caicedo.
That was it, yeah, which is outstanding. I mean, that from a defensive standpoint, that's just ludicrous and not something that any of us really expected when we signed either. He looked like a left winger who didn't score goals, and obviously he's been so much more than that when he's played for Forest. He's the heart of the midfield now. So yeah, you could argue that. Equally, Elanga's got 10 assists this season and 6 goals, and that's frightening for a winger. If you can get a winger with, I don't know, 5 goals and say 5 assists, it's a pretty good return, generally speaking. Well, that's what we assume is a good return. And he's just been ridiculous. I know he obviously had that dip in form earlier in the season, but I think what we forget is, because we see how good they can be, we forget how young they are. Obviously, young players do go through peaks and troughs, don't they? They will have periods of very inconsistent. Where they're still finding their feet and getting to grips with what they can do, and they're still learning and absorbing things. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a choice between Anderson and Elanga. I don't even know. If you throw Red into the equation, I'm not even entirely sure either. So I don't know who decides it. Came to that conclusion, but again, fair enough.
Don't you find it strange that there's Saliba's 24? Is that still a young player?
It should be capped, really. It should be capped at 21. Because remember Foden and Dele Alli were winning it. They were like 23, 24. It's like, hang on a minute. You've played like 200 odd games.
Yeah. I think under 23s at the most. Really.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. What's your take on it, Reece? Because it is an interesting topic debate from a Forest standpoint, anyway.
No, you could make a case for all 3 of them, couldn't you? I just kind of put that in our group chat as like playing devil's advocate thing, but I wouldn't say anyone deserves it as much as anybody else out of them 3. If there was all in there, you'd say yeah, fair enough. So yeah, it's just great to see one of our players in there. 10 assists is superb. Shame he couldn't have got double figures in both. That is rare. I think it was Saka and Salah, the only 2 who did that last season. But yeah, another season. I know he, like Christian just said, he had that period where he was a bit in and out, and a lot of fans were saying, "Oh, Jota should be starting," which has proved to not be the case. And yeah, I think it's been another good season for him. It wouldn't surprise if Newcastle come sniffing again in the summer, especially if they get in the Champions League. So obviously, but that's down the line. Or you just want from these young players to keep improving. I think Elanga's improved this season. Murillo, again, has had another good season, improved. And like Christian said, Elliot Anderson, let's be honest, no one really knew much about him. And he's gone from someone who we probably thought is going to be in the squad and build up over his Forest contract into a decent, good player. But he's nailed in the first team now, isn't he? There's nobody ever debating that centre mid position where he is. So that's a testament to him as well. And to be in, ground duels with the likes of Bruno Guimaraes, who I think Newcastle spent 50 million on. Caicedo was 115 million. It's not bad, is it? So, yeah, I think Elanga deserves to be in there. And if the other 2 would have got in, I think they would have fully deserved it as well. That's strange a 24-year-olds are in it, personally.
Fully enjoying the PSR loophole to get Elliot Anderson. I mean, I absolutely love him.
All black
he,
Demos.
yeah. I mean, I think
He's a League
you've
Cup winner
both
now,
again.
isn't he? So he hasn't been all bad for him.
I think you've
I'm
both
sure
touched
also
on
that his Greek relatives.
I think you've both touched on really good points. I think Alanga has gone up a level. I mean, who would have thought he'd be like one of our better set piece takers this season? I mean, that's something he's added to his game. I know there can be a bit. It's not hard to like be a half decent set piecer in our team because we're just absolutely woeful most of the time. But we have scored quite a few from corners and free kicks and what have you. So that's been nice to see that improvement. But yeah, I think. I love Anderson. I just love his endeavour. I love like he's a battler. He's a bit old school in some sense as well, which I adore that about him. And Alanga, he's someone that gets you off your seat, isn't it? Like you said, Reece, about Henry, because of his pace, he's just absolutely frightening. Like the fact that he's got like 1% body fat or whatever just goes to showing his commitment to his physical health, and he's improved his left foot because I think he must have read comments because he must have been thought, well, Forest fans want a left-footed right winger. Well, I'll have to do that as well when he's scored a few decent goals on his left peg. So yeah, no, fantastic. And then the last thing we've just got to chat about before we actually talk about what this pod was meant to be about, which is West Ham. so much news. Nuno's been nominated for manager of the season as well, which is thoroughly deserved in my opinion. I think it's just been chalked. It's kind of been chalked off a little bit by our tail end of the season, unfortunately. But we've still got 2 games to go, so there's still a hope there. But I don't know I don't think he'll get it now, Willie Reece, because of this drop off.
Yeah, I don't get why they do this award before the end of the season because there's still football to be played. Like Thomas Frank, in my opinion, deserves to be on that list because he's been really good this season with Brentford. But say if Bournemouth get that 8th position and Man City win the cup and they qualify for Europe, then surely Iraola should be on that list, really. So when there's still football to be played, I don't particularly like it. But I guess it's because everyone buggers off on holidays why they do it. But still Nuno for me, mate, because, I mean, especially if he gets to the Champions League, but I was chatting with a Liverpool fan on Twitter who, for once, was actually quite, willing to have a fine debate. But Liverpool, Arne Slot's done a brilliant job. Let's be honest. I don't think many people would have tipped them for the title, but I think most would have tipped them to be, well, all would have tipped them to be towards the top end of the league. And he's been left a very good squad by Jurgen Klopp. You've seen it this season. They're going to Mo Salah's numbers. The right backs going to Real Madrid. They've got some really good players, and he's reinvented the likes of like Gravenberch, got that midfield sorted, and he's done a great job. But Nuno, we were 17th last season, and only a few, and Liverpool have been at the top for quite a while now under Klopp. Missing out obviously against Guardiola. In that time, we were stinking out in the Championship and then coming up with literally building a team from the bottom up. So to go from back-to-back relegation scraps to basically being in and around the Champions League spots all season, now guaranteed Europe, you could also throw in the FA Cup semi-final into that as well, with a quite small squad. Personally, I think Nuno deserves it, whatever happens, but I do agree with you, Adam. I think he'll probably go to Slot. But I think Nuno's definitely in the top 2. Eddie Howe's done a very good job with Newcastle as well. But, Newcastle a couple of seasons ago got in the Champions League. They finished 7th last season. So they've had that base. A lot of people will turn around and say, well, they've got the best midfield in the league. So others will say they've got the best striker in the league. Not many people turn around and take players out of our side and be like, yeah, he's the best in the league. You know what I mean? So it would be Nuno for me still, despite this little bit of a drop-off, unfortunately. But I do expect it to go to Slot, annoyingly. But rightfully in the conversation, definitely. I'm surprised. I know he's done a good job at Wolves, but I'm surprised Pereira got on there because the bottom 3 have been pretty utterly dreadful. And I think actually Gary O'Neill would have probably still kept them up. They've been that bad. And then obviously we spoke about Frank, who does deserve a nomination as well because he's done a good job. But yeah,
I did look at I did look at the manager of the season award. If Pereira is on there, should David Moyes not be on there? They've had like virtually the same time at both
Well, yeah,
Everton and Wolves.
you could argue that. I mean, neither would be on there for me. I mean, Iraola would be on
No.
there for me because I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
having this opening day. We had a Bournemouth fan on this pod, and he says the club's next step of progression was finishing in the top half. And I remember putting that out on Twitter at the time, and there was a lot of Forest fans who laughed at that. He's near enough nailed that on. And at one point, there was a lot of Forest fans as well absolutely pooing themselves that Bournemouth were going to finish in the Champions League above us, and we need to be playing like Bournemouth, or they've fell off quite a bit, haven't they? So, but I still think he's done a great job this season.
Injuries have killed them, and it looks like Dean Huijsen's going to Real Madrid. So everyone's going Real Madrid as long as they're not going away from our football club. I'm not bothered. Christian, thoughts on Nuno getting manager of the season? Would you give it him, or are you leaning towards Slot or anyone else?
I echo what Reece said. Really, I mean, it should. I think I also agree it should be at the end of the season. This is all. There's still 2 games left, for example, and like. Types of point. For example, say Bournemouth come 8th, for example. It's not on the list.
When we got promoted, Nathan Jones got it, and they lost in the semi-final of the playoffs. Cooper took us from the bottom of the league to promotion via the playoffs. Nearly got us automatically promoted, and he didn't get it. But crazy.
Yeah, that's outrageous. I would personally give it to Nuno as well. I mean, 17th to 7th is, even if that's how it finishes. Let's say we don't win our next 2 games, or we finish 7th for whatever reason, that's still a gargantuan accomplishment, because that's something that people said was impossible. They said they couldn't be done with all the teams in there and the money in the Premier League. They said that any less the sort of like achievement or shoot up the league is they all said it was impossible. So Nuno's proved them all wrong, and done it playing a very effective style of football. It's been good to watch. Especially in like transition when Forest get the ball, like you said, Adam, it's like red arrows flying forward, and it's very exciting to sort of see how we attack teams and pick them off on the counter. I mean, I agree with Reece as well. Liverpool way more. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we all sort of had them in the top 4. I think had they finished 3rd or 4th, I think no one really would have batted an eyelid too much, but they still had a team that was somewhat equipped, I'd say, for a title charge. Obviously, you have to give Slot a lot of credit for how he's managed people like Gravenberch, for example, who's turned into that number 6 they all craved and needed, and been a fulcrum for their title win. And obviously, the number Salah's got, for example, he's had to deal with a lot of awkwardness throughout the season. Obviously, the whole Van Dijk, Salah, and Trent sort of contract saga has been played out in the media every single week. Obviously went out to probably the favourites for the Champions League final in a penalty shootout. So he's not obviously it's been fairly decent across the board, apart from when he's underestimated the cups, like he did at Plymouth, for example. But so there is a valid claim for Slot being there, of course. But I do think that with no Arteta or Guardiola involved, I wouldn't be surprised if no did win it, actually, because a lot of the rival fans aren't going to pick Slot. Your Arsenal fans, your Man United, and obviously that's what we get. It's fan voted. So your Arsenal fans, United fans, your City fans, you can't vote for their own manager. We'll probably go for Nuno instead. So there's a very fair chance he still wins it anyway. And if he does, fully deserves. As much as these last few weeks have been incredibly frustrating, as much as it's been, agonising to see this opportunity fall away from us, fully deserved. To go up 10 places like that in the league, from a relegation threatening club to one pushing European football, has been a Champions League door for 9/10 of the season. That's remarkable, absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, no, I echo what you guys have said. I think he's done brilliantly. I think what I absolutely love, and I hope this continues, is like Brighton, Bournemouth and Fulham to an extent, but like Brighton, Palace, Everton, and those sort of teams where they kind of linger in the mid-table. Wolves as well for the last several years. You'd be like, oh, they're teams that have built to try and push for that European spot. We've come in 2 seasons of fighting it out the bottom, a 3rd season. We're going to jump all over that now. Like, let's bugger it. And I think that's testament to Marinakis in a sense, because he's just put the money where his mouth is. He took a risk. He took a massive risk last year with the whole, him and the recruitment team or whoever else is part of all that process of not selling Brennan Johnson when we could have for cheaper to Brentford or whatever to balance the books. That risk has paid off, and fair play. Like I know other teams will hate that and hate that we're like kind of being proud of that sort of thing. But these are the times in football, and unfortunately, it's just how it is. So we'll move on. We've got West Ham this weekend. I mean, we'll try and rattle through a bit quicker because I know we're a bit tight for time. But West Ham, Reece, on Sunday. I know you're making the trip. Take your binoculars. So you can see from wherever you're sitting. I know, Christian, it's a local one for you on your doorstep, like 40 minutes away. You're swine. What's your thoughts for it? Because as Christian alluded to last week, he's kind of written it off a little bit, but there is that slight glimmer of hope. And obviously we've got tomorrow's games as we record this with Villa and Chelsea taking place against Man United and Tottenham, though we can't really see, I can't see those results going our way personally, but you just never know.
Well, that's it. And I guess as the table stands, the pressure's kind of come off a bit. Now, if Chelsea winning's irrelevant because we played them on the last day, but if Villa was to say draw tomorrow night, which I cannot see, I think they'll beat Tottenham, then the pressure's back on again because you think, oh God, if we win this, we're back in basically on the final day with Chelsea. We've just got to try and win the game and try and take it to the last day, and you never know. The positive is, I guess, that if that does happen, it's in our hands. We need to beat Chelsea. I'm going to try and sugarcoat it as much as I can, but Manchester United might be on a high from winning the Europa League a few days before, last home game of the season. Might want to go into the next season with a point to prove. So I still think there'll be a twist somewhere. That might be, say, Spurs or United going ahead, but Villa coming from behind to beat them, for example. But we'll see. Well, it's just a shame of West Ham, aren't they? They actually played United and they've been gifted a win because United and Tottenham aren't arsed as it stands, are they? Because all they're thinking about is the Europa League on next week. So, I mean, that just having a look now, that was pretty much, I think, 9 or 8 games had gone without a win before that. It'll be their last home game of the season, which is correct. Yeah, Ipswich away on the last day. So they'll probably want to put on a little bit of a performance, but we'll see, mate. I guess the ironic thing is the last 2 seasons, a lot of fans have said, oh yeah, West Ham on the beach are not going to get a result in Leeds and Luton for us. So it would be kind of, all come full circle for them to beat us. But, we've nearly had a full week, I guess, to prepare. Like I said, the pressure is more off now because it is unlikely now to say we're in the Champions League, but we're still only a point off us in the hunt. So we've just got to go there and win the game. What kind of game I'm expecting? Who knows what West Ham are going to turn up? Really. I think a few of their squad actually probably want to get out the club, don't you? Paqueta, Kudos, them type of players. They've always got hard-working players like your Jared Bowens now. I think will give everything for them. But it'll be an interesting game. I'm not really sure what to expect. In terms of team for us, it's going to be interesting if Murillo's fit, he slots back in. I think some fans might, if he wasn't fit, to say go for Bolly over Morato, but Morato is a left footer. So, and then Hudson-Odoi, if he's fit as well. Again, interesting. It's what kind of do you don't you? So, what kind of team we play? So, I think as it stands, we'd probably go with a 3 in midfield, wouldn't we? Anderson, Dominguez, and Sangare. And then obviously Alanga gives White off Wood. But we shall see come Sunday afternoon. I mean, and also as well, sorry, Adam, just to finish, we'll know about his European spot, won't we, Saturday night? Because
we will
know if we're guaranteed Europa or not, or a 2-legged playoff with Stenhouse Mere or something in the Conference League.
Stenhouse Mere. I love the randomness of teams that get bought.
Yeah.
I want to play like Larn from Northern Ireland or something like that.
Trust me, you don't.
Christian, a bit on West Ham, but also I would like to know what your potential midfield might be, because I think that's the biggest area. I think if like, I mean, I'll let you go for it because I'll have my say as well.
West Ham. I mean, if you'd asked me even a month ago, I'd say easy Forest win, nailed on Forest win. But they've shown they can't deal with sustained pressure, and it seems like things are catching up with them or whatever else. So I don't know, draw at best, I reckon. But hope it doesn't mean anything anyway, because it's obviously, well, I say hopefully. In a dream world, I'd like Palace to win, but obviously with Forest hat on, it's probably better for us at City do, which is quite wrong, really. But obviously, it means so much more to Palace, and yeah. But as for midfields, Nuno's got to make a decision. That's what it comes down to. He's got to make a decision because, if we do go with that same midfield of Dominguez on left wing, for example, we'll get beat. Simple as that. We'll get beat. Like Leicester, the amount of space Leicester were finding around us and joy they were getting, and just because we're basically like defending forward on that left hand side with no one to go past. Like I said, Williams facing his own goal, Dominguez sort of hovering in that sort of defensive position he's always been in all season. No one wanted to get the ball forward. No one wanted to get into that slot compared to the other side of Belanga and Aina. If he doesn't start a left winger, we'll get beat. So because West Ham are a much better side than Leicester, and that says a lot about how bad Leicester have been this season, which also highlights how bad the result was last Sunday. But yeah, that's what it comes down to. I personally, he's got to make a choice. I would go for it. I'd go for it. Play either Dominguez or Sangare in next to Anderson, and have one of the wingers. If you don't want to play Sosa, fine, play Jota on the right then. Although given a 1 year's injury, I wouldn't be surprised if Jota's withheld a little bit to be kept as like the second striker. Obviously, in now the event, he's the only one left in case something happens to Woods. But he's got to have. If you still have any intention of trying to make this Champions League thing go to a final day of the season, and you've got to go with two wingers there. Otherwise, there's no point.
I know, obviously, we've mentioned about this in the past, but if we was to play a 4-3-3, would you maybe play Gibbs White more towards the right? I know it's not ideal, but I think give you that wingers both sides.
He just gravitates towards the central anyway. It's the only thing. Like, I mean, we saw it against Leicester as well. It looked like at times Forest were in a 4-3-3, and then you'd have sort of three of them dotted around. But he games in the middle. Gibbs White. He'll naturally be drawn over there. So.
Because I just don't. If Hudson-Odoi is injured, he don't fancy Sousa, does he? And he don't fancy. I don't think Jota as a starter as well as an impact sub, maybe.
And to be honest, Elanga on the left's not a great solution either.
No, he's better on the right.
But I'd rather have Elanga playing on the left and having things not quite work out for him, like the ball bouncing off him and going out of play, like it happened at Palace about 8 times. And having Jota on the right, at least you've got two actual wide men then. At least if you do manage to knit a pattern in midfield, you can actually play it in behind and get him to run onto it. We weren't doing that on Sunday. We couldn't do it because we had no one to do it. So, again, enough tinkering. Just, get at them. That's what we've got to do now. Two wingers on the pitch, striker up front, get at them.
Yeah, I
on Dominguez and Sangare, because one of them would probably drop out.
It would be harsh, but the team comes for any player. We know that.
Okay.
So
I think you'd have to play Dominguez because of his energy, and you want to press high. If we want to go and win, we have to go press high, be aggressive, be on the front foot a little bit. It's a shame about Gibbs White not being able to play that kind of hybrid role that Dominguez was doing. One, we had Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi, because I've just been going through like goals and stuff and highlights today for a project I'm going to do, and lots of Gibbs White's assists this season, actually quite a few. Just to name off the top of my head, like Man United for Chris Wood, for Milenkovic at the weekend. He's crossing from quite deep on the right hand side, all unbelievable balls, and you kind of think like, well, if you can get that more into your game where you do drift out a little bit more and be that kind of what Kevin De Bruyne does. I'm not saying to be Kevin De Bruyne because he's just an unbelievable talent, but he gets quite a lot of joy, he gets quite a lot of space, and when he's on it, he's got bloody hell of a delivery, Gibbs White. So it's a shame that kind of doesn't work, and he does drift to the centre. I do agree with you, Christian. He don't like hanging out there. It's not his forte, unfortunately, because he's not blessed with like unbelievable pace as such. He's just got a lot of running endeavour and aggressiveness. So yeah, no, I think it's a game where I hope we go for it. I hope, like you say, Christian, make a decision, Nuno. go for broke because you've not got nothing to lose. Hopefully, at the end of the day, like you're relying on City to beat Palace in an FA Cup final, which on paper they should, but it depends because Man City have been so bad. This is not a scenario I can imagine happening, but I would absolutely love it if like City and Chelsea bottled the last 2 games and as Villa and Newcastle all got in. To be honest, that'd be my absolute dream. I think I'd combust.
I honestly
think
who else got in it, and their fans would be the exact same.
I know.
Stuff on Twitter. Oh, you get in it with us? Like, no, who cares if they get in it? We're Forest fans, not Newcastle.
I just but if I could like draw up a scenario where like it was like written out of a film, Reece, it would be them 2 to drop out because they've been cheating the system for so long, and I'm sick of it.
It would be very funny.
But also, I don't know if it was you, Reece, or Christian. You mentioned about obviously if City, I think it was Christian actually. City beat Palace on Saturday, and that gives us 8th becomes a spot, doesn't it? And Bournemouth play then City on the Tuesday, so it could well be a factor. We do have to go and win if we want a chance of still taking it into the last day. So. Yeah, interesting.
And a good friend of playoff. Yeah.
Well, I do because of crap, but
until we lose 1-0,
we won't lose to them, mate. I've watched them twice. We would not lose to them. One time they drew with a team from Luxembourg who were better than them on the night as well, and actually beat them in the second leg. But that's another discussion. And the players and Nuno will be thinking about Champions League still as well. They won't just be thinking that,
they should.
Europa League. They'll just think about winning the game, winning the next 2 games, and see where it takes us. I'm going to put my neck on the line, but I actually going to say if we do win his next 2 games, we'd actually get in. I actually don't think we'll win his next 2 games, but I've just got this feeling Villa's not going to beat Man United, but I just can't see us winning them 2 games, unfortunately.
It would be very Forest, wouldn't it?
You watch Chelsea get in at our ground.
Like, we'll do our part of holding this side, and then there'll be a twist. It's like, okay, all Forest have to do is avoid defeat next week or something, and then we end up losing.
All the radios will be held to the ears, like back in the old days on last day of the season.
And then we find out we've got Sparta Prague in a bloody playoff.
They lost their final because I've seen the projections. So there was loads of cup finals this week in Europe, and I think so far every favourite has lost. So obviously AC Milan lost last night. Ferencváros, they lost their final to a team called Paxi, who are only full of Hungarian players, I read. And I'm sure Sparta Prague lost to I think it's Sigma. They're called Sigma something. I can't pronounce it now, so I'm not even going to have an attempt. But that football rankings puts it all up.
Let's say if Forest were to finish in the Conference League, let's say that Palace do win the FA Cup, and to be fair, that'd be a good story for football if they did. But let's say Palace win the FA Cup. It'd be bad for Forest, but it'd be good for football. I'm sorry, walking out of Wembley and seeing all these bloody spoiled City fans like swanning around like they own the place like it was nothing. I screw them. I hope Palace beat them. But anyway, let's assume that Forest do finish in the Conference League. What sort of teams are we actually looking at playing? Like we all joke about playing like FC Whack or like Torpedo Catastrophe and this, that, and the other. But who actually feasibly could Forest play? Seeing as you've been with it.
We obviously I've seen a tweet got put up of the first qualifying round where it is literally like the minnows, etc.
Yeah.
But that is probably not. Well, that ain't going to happen. They're not going to get there. So like the projected. So I'll give you a projection. This is from the football rankings on Twitter, which is a really good page to follow because I'm a proper nerd in all. So top of pot one at RB Leipzig, who of whatever you think of their model, have been in Europe quite a while now. Lazio are.
These playoff teams we could get. I mean, surely we'd be seeded.
No. These are like the projected pots. Yeah. I've no idea.
I'm talking about in terms of who. Let's say, for example,
I'm guessing the bottom 2 pots would probably be teams who would get through the qualifiers. So you've got FC RFS, who are from Latvia, Zrinjski Mostar from Bosnia, KUPS of Finland. Budućnost Podgorica, I think they're Montenegro. Rakow of Poland. AEK Larnaca, Cyprus, I believe. Hibs, obviously Scotland. Brøndby are Denmark.
Yeah, Brøndby,
Dynamo Minsk of Belarus. Kyra, I believe, are from Kazakhstan. Noah, are Chelsea's old friends. They are from Armenia. And the last one is Iberia 1999, who are from Georgia.
About like
some great ties lie ahead.
Yeah. So
so
obviously the top part of the minute is
unbelievably Forest to lose that.
The top part of the minute is Leipzig, Lazio, AZ Alkmaar, Lyon, Maccabi Tel Aviv, who actually played their home games in Belgrade. I had a look at that because obviously you can't play them in Israel. And Djurgården, who obviously lost in the semis from Sweden this year.
Right, fair. Well, hopefully
let's hope it's not that. But then if it is that, like I've said before,
it's just a way to brag.
Forest would be looking at winning that tournament. They really would.
Oh, yeah, should we get past the playoff? And I mean, like Forest thing imaginable to lose
Chelsea
that playoff.
Have obviously got Djurgården in the semi-final. No disrespect to them. The only real, I'd say, tough game is going to be in the final, and I'd still expect them to beat Real Betis.
Yes,
unless Anthony wants to, which he's doing at the minute, playing really well for them.
The three places, Anthony and Sancho. Yeah,
it'd be funny if you got the winner.
What's your score prediction for Sunday, Reese?
I think I said it on the last pod, didn't I? With my head, I'm going to say 1 apiece. Obviously, my heart says Forest win, but I get it will. The results on Friday night will have a bearing, though, because the pressure could swing back onto us. But I just, from what I'm watching, and I hate saying it, I just kind of think we've hit the red zone really, and we're on as like last legs. Well, we've gone past on as last legs, and we're trying to basically. I'll use a Simpsons analogy where Homer's, I think they're doing capture the flag, aren't they? And he's running towards the finish line, and then he's literally started crawling, and as he's about to get there, he collapses and then he gets egged. So, but let's hope we can just win the game and take it to that last day, because that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, Christian, score prediction.
If he goes to the same setup as Leicester, we'll lose that game 2-3-0. I'm sorry, we will. That's not me being hard. I mean, you can't just go to a team without an entire left-hand side and expect to get anything out of the game. It doesn't work. And we've seen it doesn't work. The best will get to draw. That's going to happen. And, like Reece said earlier, it's their last home game this season. They're coming in it off a win at Old Trafford. They're full of energy for the first time all season. If we go in with the wrong setup, and we've said this before, you can tell pretty early if Forest have gone with the wrong setup. We'll know about it, put it that way. If we go in a way which I think can play to our strengths properly, then yeah, of course we can beat them. They're nothing special. And they are for a reason this season. And they won the transfer window and signed a bunch of mercenaries who hated the club and just wanted to get paid. So, they're all running down. They're all looking at running down the clock.
Where have we heard that story before?
So, I mean, yeah, if it's a team that, we look at and think, yeah, okay, we got a chance here, we'll beat them. But whether it means anything or not remains to be seen.
Not that I need you to respond to this or anything. It just makes me laugh because, like, at certain times of the season, we've had either one or both. One winger available, and we've managed to deal with it. Like, I'm just thinking, like Everton, not Everton because that's the wrong game. But like,
even if in a way, we were Sosa.
Yeah. Actually, no. I'm thinking of something rubbish. I was going to mention about games we've won with just like Elanga playing, but I think the notable game.
Man City, did we?
No, both. I think one of them come on, didn't they?
Yeah.
Did one of them come on?
I
can't remember now.
Obviously, Liverpool away, we played without them both and played that flat four, didn't we? And
the only one I can think of is Ipswich, where we've had Oli Elanga, but Ipswich are terrible, so that don't really count. I think I'm leaning towards what you've said, Reece, about a draw. I mean, I think if we do go for it, I don't know if West Ham will be interested enough, and I think we could beat them, but like Christian said, it depends which team turn up. So yeah, I'm gonna go for one. Put it on at least. Yeah, just go for it. I just hope we go for it. That's all you can ask, and then whatever will be. And we've still had a really good season, and still looking forward to the next one. To be honest, like roll it on. But no, hope you've all enjoyed the pod. he'll be back for a review of some sorts on either Sunday or Monday, or probably both. Maybe that's what we've started to do now. We're upping the content a lot. So, yeah, no, hope you've all enjoyed it. I hope you all enjoy your week. Safe travels to anyone that are heading to London. Say hello to Reece and Christian if you see them in the upper or the lower, whichever one you're in. And
Lower.
Yeah, come on, you're in.